Hey everybody, this is Tom, otherwise known as Scary Spikes, and welcome to another Star Citizen video. Today I'll be giving you my rundown of the best components in their class based on use case. That'll be across a number of different types of sizes and use cases, so make sure to stay tuned so that you know which components are best to use for what you like to do in the verse. Before we get started, I just wanted to give a very special personalized thank you to one of our VIP Gold contributors, JD Pyle. She's been with us for quite some time now, almost since the beginning, and she is our honorary Canadian, meaning that she apologizes for just about everything when there is absolutely no need to. I know this because I too am Canadian, and it's kind of the law up here. But thank you to JD for being such an amazing member of our community. She is a little bit shy, but once she opened up, she was a very wonderful person to be around, very enigmatic and energetic, very caring, and also extremely generous on the stream. So JD Pyle, thank you so very much for being a VIP Gold contributor and for being a part of our community. If you'd like to join our community, you can also go into the description below to get the link for our Discord server, where we have tons of amazing people who want to meet, chat, and play with you. And of course, you can always join us on stream live Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern and meet everybody live and have a good time with us as we run different kinds of events and just have a good time together. If you enjoy this video, please make sure to leave me a like to let me know, subscribe if you're new, and ring the bell so that you never miss a video in the future. Without further ado, let's get started with this video. For this video, we're going to be looking at three major use cases that should cover the majority of users in Star Citizen. The first of which will be your regular run-of-the-mill everyday build for convenience and mileage. The second will be for military applications, and the third will be for stealth. If you haven't seen my previous video about ship components, make sure to go watch that before watching this so that you get a better idea of what sizes, classes, and grades of components are and what they mean. They're all going to be very different and behave differently, have different stats and characteristics, and therefore affect your gameplay in different ways. For the purposes of this video though, we'll just be looking at sizes 1 through 3, even though size 0 and size 4 do exist, but they are not yet utilized to their full potential in the game, and therefore we'll only be looking at sizes 1 through 3, which are being used by the majority of the spaceships in Star Citizen. In order to get started, we'll just go ahead and enter the ship loadout screen. Here, where you can see the Vehicle Loadout Manager, is the second tab on the bottom in your Mobiglass, and just go ahead and select the ship to get started. The first ship we'll be using as an example will be the Aegis Avenger Stalker. Now this is a size 1 ship. It's a fairly small ship with all size 1 components, and the way that you figure that out is you go over to the Systems tab, and when you mouse over each of these individual categories here for coolers, power plants, and shields, you'll be able to see in the info pane down below that the size is actually number 1. The sizes can range from 0 to 4, 0 being very small ships like the Cyclone, Ursa Rover, or Misk Razor, and size 4 being capital class ships such as the 890 Jump, which is currently the only ship in the game with capital size components. Like I said though, for this video we'll only be looking at sizes 1 through 3 since those are the most utilized sizes within the game thus far. First and foremost, let's take a look at the propulsion and the systems for a size 1 ship. This ship comes with an expedition drive, which is not too bad, but in order to make the most out of it, we'll first be looking at our regular run-of-the-mill everyday scenario. For that, I recommend the Atlas. The Atlas is a size 1 drive, and it's got a pretty good mix of speed as well as fuel economy, and is a great quantum drive to use just for your day-to-day things, running around doing some light bounty hunting and getting around the verse. If you're doing a lot of bounty hunting, or you want something that's more suited for military applications, the VK00 is a great option. It is a size 1, grade A, military class quantum drive, which is really quite poor at fuel economy, but excellent at speed. With all the fuel economy that you sacrifice, the speed will definitely get you to where you need to go fast, which is great for subsystem travel when you're moving between the moons of a particular subsystem when you're running bounties. This is a great overall quantum drive to use for those particular use cases, but absolutely horrible when you need to get yourself across the system because there's a good chance you'll need to stop for fuel along the way. If stealth is more important to you, then you can definitely sacrifice the speed or the fuel economy from its brothers and go and get yourself the Spectre Quantum Drive, which is a size 1, grade A stealth class drive, which sacrifices speed and fuel economy for stealth. Now, stealth works a little bit different in Star Citizen than it works in many other games. In Star Citizen, the way that stealth works is that you don't actually cloak, but you reduce your signatures, such as your EM or your IR signatures. The only thing is that the Quantum Drive, unlike the other systems like shield generators, coolers, and power plants, is an on-use item, meaning that it doesn't really have any effect other than when it's actually being used. That means that instead of using the Stealth Quantum Drive, you can still use a VK00 for military purposes or an Atlas for everyday purposes, and it's really not going to make a difference in your IR or EM signatures until you actually turn it on and start to move. In most cases, it doesn't matter because it's either before you start shooting or after everybody is already dead. And so in this case, I would recommend with foregoing the Stealth Quantum Drive even in a stealth build and go with a VK00 for military applications and traveling quickly within a subsystem, or an Atlas for pretty much every other use case in order to make the most of your Quantum Drive and not have to worry too much about sacrificing your stealth in the meantime. Moving on to coolers. As we can see here, this Stalker comes with a bracer stock, and there's 2 of them. The bracer unfortunately isn't that fantastic, although it is economical on your wallet. If you do want to upgrade that though, whether it's for standard or military purposes, I would really recommend the Glacier. They're not too expensive and they're honestly absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, coolers don't have as big of an impact as some of the other systems in the ship, but having a sufficient cooler is definitely good for when you're running things like attrition, laser repeaters, or other components that require a lot of cooling. This is something that I'm sure is going to be fleshed out later in the game, but in either case, I would still recommend getting a Glacier because it is a size 1 grade A military class cooler, and it does a fantastic job in cooling your ship, especially if you can get 2 of them. If you're looking for a stealth build, then the Snowblind is definitely for you, although they are quite a bit more expensive and they're not as good on ships like these when compared to ships like, for example, the Saber, which are built to be stealth ships. For the power plant, honestly, there's again really only 2 choices here, one for military and standard applications, and the other for stealth. For those first 2, I would definitely recommend the JS series. This is a series that is in all of the different class sizes. So for example, the JS 300 at size 1, the JS 400 at size 2, and the JS 500 at size 3. It is a little bit complicated, but the JS series is honestly a wonderful power plant that delivers a great power delivery at a very fast speed and is usually more than capable of running high-end components even when overclocking and overheating. The JS is honestly the line that I trust with the majority of my ships, and I rarely ever change it except for when I need to go stealth, in which case the Slipstream is definitely the way to go. It's still very capable of producing power for your entire ship while keeping your signatures low. In my opinion though, if you're running a regular ship that's not meant to be stealth, for everyday and military applications, I would definitely recommend the JS series of power plants. For shields, again, at size 1, there are not too many options, so we'll focus on 2 shields, one which will be good for standard and military applications, and the other which will be good for stealth. For military and standard applications, the FR66 is a wonderful shield that has a great shield pool and a pretty decent recharge rate as well. I would definitely recommend having 2 of these if you can, although some ships only come with 1, and that's okay. If you have a ship that's designed for stealth or you're trying to put together a stealth build, the holy grail of stealth shields is definitely the Mirage. The Mirage is really wonderful. It protects you very well while offering a lower signature compared to its FR66 brother. Again though, I would go for the FR66 in most situations since it does a pretty good job, has a good pool, a solid recharge rate, and does a pretty good job in protecting your ship no matter what you decide to do around the verse. Moving on to size 2 components. Now this is where we really start to begin to have more choices depending on the kind of use case that we have and the kind of ship that we want to build. If you want more details, by the way, make sure to go over to Urkel.games and I'll provide a link to each of the 3 use cases for a number of different sizes of ships so that you can get an idea of what those loadouts might look like. You can also make your own and share those with us in the comments below. For the size 2 components, we'll be looking at the Aegis Vanguard Hoplite as an example, but of course you can use any ship to your heart's desire as long as it supports the size 2 components. First, we'll be looking at the Quantum Drive. With Quantum Drives in size 2, like I mentioned, you do have quite a bit more flexibility, and the first one we'll talk about is the Crossfield. The Crossfield is a great overall middle of the road day-to-day drive that will get you across the system without having to stop and get fuel, more than likely. It is a size 2 grade C military class drive, and like I said, it's great for just about everything. It's not the fastest and it's not the quietest, but it'll definitely get you there with plenty of fuel to spare, which is great for most activities in the verse. If you're the kind of person that does a lot of bounty hunting or for other military applications where you're not traveling far but speed is important, then the XL1 will be a lot better for you. It is also a size 2, but now this is a grade A drive with the military class. It's much better suited for getting you to where you want to go fast, but unfortunately it's not quiet, and the fuel economy is pretty much subpar compared to the Crossfield. If violence and silence is your thing, then the Spicule, or however it is you pronounce that, is your quantum drive. You'll have a size 2 grade A stealth drive, and again, quantum drives are not as important to have in stealth mode because they only really affect your signatures when you use them, but if you must have one that is stealth, then this is the best one to go with. I would honestly recommend, even for a stealth build, to go with something like a Crossfield or an XL1 because they really only affect your signature when they're being used. The other components are much more important to have as stealth components for a stealth build because they're always on, and they will affect your IR and EM signatures respectively pretty much the whole time. Moving on to the coolers, and again we have a little bit of flexibility here. For the military applications, I would definitely go with an Avalanche. The Avalanche is of course a size 2, and it is a grade A military class cooler. If you're looking for something that will keep your weapons from overheating and generally do a good job of cooling your ship in the heat of battle, then the Avalanche is really the way to go. You can also go to the Permafrost if you want to spend a little bit less money and get a little bit less performance, and I would say that this one is usually pretty good for everyday applications. If you're looking for a stealth application, then the Nightfall is the way to go. It is also a size 2, grade A and stealth class, and it's going to keep your systems cool while keeping your IR and EM signatures relatively modest. Those are the 3 that I would recommend, although for my purposes, I usually almost always go with the Avalanche because it tends to have the best performance for my particular use case. For the power plant, again, I would have to go with the JS series. It's really in a league of its own when it comes to how quickly it can generate and deliver power to your components, as well as how much of that power it delivers. The JS400 is honestly a staple in pretty much every single ship that I have, and I've got quite a few of them. Now, if you're looking for a stealth build, of course, you will need to go with something a little bit more stealthy. So instead of this size 2 grade A military class, you can move on to the Eclipse, which is a size 2 grade A stealth class component. And that will make sure to keep your systems powered, but also keep your IR and EM signatures relatively low. Again, honestly, it's not a huge difference. I mean, you would definitely want to use this in ships that are more suited for stealth. For example, the ones that have stealth armor on them, but this will definitely reduce your IR and EM signatures while keeping everything powered up fairly well. For everything else though, I would just go with the JS400s, and they're honestly not too expensive, they're relatively affordable, and they do a wonderful job overall. For the shield generators, we do have quite a bit more flexibility this time around. The ones that I go for the most are usually the FR76 paired with the Rampart. The Rampart has a really good pool, and so for larger ships I would actually recommend using the Rampart, even though it is industrial, but it is a industrial class grade A, of course, with a size 2. It has a slower regen rate than the FR76, but it has a much larger shield pool. This is really great for when you have a larger ship, whereas if you have a smaller ship, I would recommend the FR76 because it has a much faster regen. With smaller ships, because your hull HP is quite a bit lower, you are definitely a lot more vulnerable once your shields go down, which is what makes it important to try to keep those up as much as possible. If you have a ship that has 2 shield slots like this, with a size 2, I would definitely recommend having one Rampart for the shield pool and one FR76 for the regen. Now, if you're looking for something that's a bit stealthy, then you can go with the Umbra, and you can definitely pair one of these Umbras with a Rampart to have a good amount of shield pool and still be relatively stealthy, or if stealth is absolutely crucial to you, you can go with 2 Umbras as well. The other option that I would recommend are the Sakurans. Now, these you can only get from certain alien ships, for example, like the Banu Defender or the Asperia Prowler. These are the best shields in the game, full stop. Literally, and pun totally intended. These are completely resistant. They have a 100% resistance to ballistic fire, which is absolutely fantastic, and they have the highest shield pool at the moment of any ship in the game. Unfortunately, they are really hard to get, and it's kind of interesting considering that they are a size 2 grade C military, but they are absolutely phenomenal. Again, that just goes to show that despite the grade of the component doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. It has its uses, and this is something I would definitely recommend if you've got a few spare ones lying around. And if you've got the money, I would definitely recommend getting yourself a Prowler or a Defender to scrap those shields off of those ships and put them on your favorite brawler. They're absolutely phenomenal, and I wholeheartedly recommend them above all else, as long as you can get your hands on them. Now, finally, we'll have a look at the size 3 components. There's not too many ships that can fit these, but I'm going to bring out my favorite, which is the Anvil Carrack Expedition in the beautiful IAE 2950 Best in Show skin from last year's Interstellar Aerospace Expo. Yep, I'm totally flexing. The first thing that we're going to look at is the Quantum Drive, and my choice will be the TS2. And one thing you'll notice is that unfortunately there's not too many ships these days that can fit size 3 components, and as a result we're finding ourselves a little bit more restricted with the types of components that we can fit. That, and good luck trying to get this thing in stealth mode. It's not going to happen. So my choice for the Quantum Drive will be the TS2. It is a size 3 grade A military class drive, and with the fuel tank on this, as well as most other ships of its size that can fit a size 3 Quantum Drive, you really don't have to worry about fuel efficiency, even though this is quite a bit of a gas guzzler. You will pay a little bit more for fuel, but it will get you from one side of the system to the other in no time, and will look good doing it. Moving on to the systems, we'll look at our coolers, and on this ship we have 2 of them. Again, we don't have too many other options. You can choose other ones if you like, but I really prefer the Blizzard. And again, keeping to the pattern of military class grade A components, we have a grade A military class cooler here, size 3, and the Blizzard is honestly the best choice overall. It is also the most expensive, but it is also the most efficient, so you do get what you pay for. And even if you choose to put size 4 attritions on this bad boy, which you shouldn't do, but you can still make sure that you get everything cooled appropriately with the Blizzards, as they do a fantastic job for both military and standard applications. Moving on to the power plant, you guys guessed it, it's the JS series again. And for good reason. It's just really good. And really, in this class and this size, there's really nothing else that can compete with it. It is literally top of the line, and yes, it is a little bit expensive. It will cost you a little bit, but it's definitely a fantastic power plant that does the job. Now, of course, this is the JS 500, size 3 grade A military class. It will keep your ship powered, despite the fact that there's only one on the Carrack, but it does a wonderful job, and it delivers power extremely quickly. It is very efficient, and at the end of the day, that is what you're paying for. Finally, we're going to move on to the shields, and again, unfortunately, we don't have too much of a choice here. The Strongholds are a pretty solid choice at a size 3 and a grade C with the industrial class. They are the standard shield that comes on certain ships, like the 600i for instance. Unfortunately, they're not fantastic. They have a pretty good shield pool. In fact, it's a pretty high shield pool. It might be even higher than the FR86 here, but the FR86 has a substantially large enough shield pool, especially since you get to have 2 of them. And the recharge rate is top notch. This is, of course, a grade A military class and size 3 component, and it is what I recommend for this and other ships of its size in order to make sure that you have good coverage, good shield pool, and also a very fast regen rate. Thank you so very much for watching. If you found the video helpful, please make sure to let me know by leaving a like, subscribing if you're new, and ringing the bell so that you never miss a video in the future. Make sure to also join us live on stream Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern on Twitch, as well as joining our Discord community, which has a ton of amazing people who are waiting to meet, play, and chat with you. You can find links for both of those in the description below, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye for now.